not going to get any good pictures of you tonight.
I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask the Deputy City Clerk to call the rolls.
Mayor Sorrell?
Here.
Assistant Mayor Hanson?
Here.
Councilor Grasso?
Here.
Councilor Farini?
Here.
Councilor Marchand?
Here.
Councilor Panalakis?
Here.
Councilor Hines?
Here.
Councilor Reynolds?
Here.
And Councilor Whitehouse?
Here.
I'd like to ask everyone to rise for a moment of silent prayer in memory of Miss Dorothy Vaughn, our former librarian for many, many years. And I do want to mention that I will be doing a proclamation on August 16th and at the City Council meeting on her. And then Councilor Whitehouse will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
The acceptance of the minutes of the meeting for July 12th, 2004.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Now we're down to the public comment session. We have 8 speakers, so that means each one of you will get 3 minutes apiece. If our city attorney puts up the thank you signs, then it does mean your 3 minutes is up and you'll have to sit down. The first one is Mr. Ecker, City Business.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't it great to be an American in the United States of America? I got this little thing when I ran for city council a few years ago by Mr. Rockwell. Freedom of speech. That's a prized possession of mine, even though I didn't get on the council. Okay. I'm not a very good speaker, I know that. However, it's one of my freedoms. Of all the things the city does wrong or right, the one thing that really gets to me is not being able to come down here and have 3 minutes. That's the one thing that gets to me. I don't care about your library. I don't care about anything else. But that 3 minutes really bugs me. We had Vietnam. We had South Korea. Now we got Iraq. People gave their lives in those countries so that they could have a free life and so they could speak, get up, just like this. People that governed them. They trusted them. They elected them. I think you all agree with that. And yet in this room, after just pledging to our flag, and we just pledged to that flag up there, we are contained at times to 1 minute. I don't dislike you, Mrs. Sorrell. However, I would think that you could make it so that we could all have 3 minutes, all the time. And the rest of you people are counselors, except for one, Mr. Whitehouse. He always argues that point. The rest of you go right along with it. Can't you think for yourselves, all of you? My father-in-law used to call some of this council the Muppet Show. Because one night he asked me, he says, "You going to watch the Muppet Show tonight?" And I says, "The Muppet Shows aren't on tonight." I'm ashamed for all of you, for myself and for all of you. I really am. I really am. Our young men right now are getting slaughtered over in Iraq. I happened to be around once upon a time, a long time ago, someplace. So I know how it is. Now those people over there are going to be able to live free and they can speak like I'm speaking tonight without going outside and being hauled away and being imprisoned or being killed or tortured. Been there. I would like to think and believe that all of you people relish the fact the people of this city taking the time to come here, come down here, take the time to come down here, and then you harass them to the point that they only have 1 minute. Give them the 3 minutes. Please make it so that every person can have 3 minutes. Please do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Decker. Bob, do you have the RSA right in front of you?
It's a council rule that establishes the minutes.
Right, okay. I did put that out front at one time, and I will do it again because it explains it very clearly, the RSA, and it's 30 minutes only, and you're supposed to talk to one subject. All right, now the next one is Rachel Hamilton, the JFK fence.
My name is Rachel Hamilton. I own the property at 135 Richards Avenue. I'd like to ask the city to reconsider the permanent fence between the JFK and the abutters. Number one, some of us already have fences that we like, that are appealing, and I just feel that this permanent fence, which I know is going to be chain link, whether it's 6 feet or it's 10 feet, it's going to negatively impact the value of my home. It negatively affects my ability to rent my rental apartment, which then also can impact my, rental income. So I, propose that we work with the city. One of the suggestions is to put up, when the time is appropriate, a temporary construction fence. Of course, prior to doing that, I would hope that we would work out the parking situation. There was some mention of making Richards Ave possibly one way from Parrott to Middle. I think that we're to the point where, this permanent fence is, tax dollars that don't need to be spent. I understand you need to establish the property line, and I don't think anyone disputes that. If there's infringements on that, they need to be worked out. But I just think spending money on a permanent fence that nobody really wants and that doesn't serve a purpose, because if it's trying to keep people from the lot, one fence that's not all around the lot isn't going to keep people from parking there. So if the intention is to ultimately keep people from parking there, that needs to be around the whole lot. And of course, I know that's going to cause a hardship on the residents and the tenants. So again, I would like to ask that we can work amicably instead of, so far it's been a bit adversarial, and work amicably to work out a way that, eventually we have a parking solution. And again, avoiding having a fence that is unsightly. And it's also going to be unsightly if the library ultimately goes there. I don't understand why we'd want to spend $7 million of tax dollars on a beautiful library and have an ugly 10-foot chain link fence behind it. I would think that, I know as a homeowner, I would prefer to work, if ultimately the library goes there, with the architect or with the city to put a permanent fence up after the project is done. That would be better for the neighborhood than to put something up that really I don't understand the purpose of. So I don't know if that is something that, we can forego the permanent fence, until we come up with a better solution.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Diane Kelly Teff, fence.
Good evening. 4 years ago, many people have questioned the mechanics of a large development on Parrott Avenue wedged between a school zone and a residential neighborhood. We all know this development as the proposed location for a new library. 4 years later, I stand here tonight with many of the same unanswered questions. The current library proposal has only 18 parking places and has never been reviewed by the land use boards or the public. And we have not studied the parking, traffic, and safety impact of the current plan. Other libraries of this size offer over 100 parking spaces, yet we only have 18 on site. According to the Institute of Transportation Engineers data of October 2002, during peak times between 3 and 6 p.m., they estimate the library will generate a total traffic volume of 243 cars per hour. How can the city invite a traffic volume of 243 cars to a location that only offers 18 parking spaces? The city also plans to displace 30 residential parking places, offering no alternative. This will not merely be an inconvenience, But without parking or access to their property, these taxpayers will be forced to endure a financial hardship. The city has increased their property taxes and decreased their ability to pay. And while the city seems indifferent to the plight of these residents, perhaps they should be concerned about library patrons who also will have no parking or access. Will the city allow residents to park on the street and make Richards Avenue one way? If so, which way? And where will the traffic be rerouted? What will the ripple effect be on all of the surrounding intersections? And when you have 400 to 500 kids on the ball fields at one time, then what? How can emergency access vehicles on Richards Avenue navigate past cars that can't pull over because of the parked cars? I was once told the fire trucks could drive up on the sidewalk around the traffic to get through, but we all know that would be impossible on this narrow tree-lined street. Where will library patrons coming to fill the 100 seats in the new auditorium park all at one time? The Parrott Avenue site does not even meet the criteria established by the city for the new library. It was clear from the beginning that the city wanted to build the library at any cost. Now it seems it may even be at the cost of the library itself. We need responsible development and full disclosure in the interest of the entire city. As taxpayers, we are entitled to know the answers to these questions. We want to know where we'll end up before we begin by building fences. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey Cooper, is the Pierce Island Trust safe?
Good evening, councilors. A friend of mine asked my thoughts on the newly revised library plans that are now on display at the current public library. I said to her that it was an obvious shell game, but at least we had saved the Pierce Island Trust property, and I thought that was at least a partial victory. But then I got to thinking that I had heard rumors of a grand scheme to move City Hall to where the middle school is, and I don't know where the middle school is going to go. I've read in the paper about a ball field being planned for the stump dump, and I've also read in the paper about the middle school study group saying that the building's inadequate and should be torn down. And also there was language in the fund that you set up for the recreation fund to, because of the encroachments, that has the language about planned future encroachments on the trust. And all this makes me wonder if the Pierce Island Trust, if the Pierce Family Trust really is as safe as it seemed when the revised library plan were put out. So my question to you is, can the council say unequivocally that there are no plans for any future encroachments on the Pierce Family Trust, and that the rumors about moving City Hall to the site of the middle school are completely unfounded? And if there are any such discussions or such plans in the works, will they be made public, and when? Because at the moment, all this information that I'm giving you is all in the rumor mill and a little newspaper article here and a newspaper article there. And I think that it would be healthy for the council, for the city and the citizens and everyone if we really had an upfront answer to these questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Any comments on the question?
No, we don't ask questions at a public comment session. You ask the question.
Yeah, I know. That's my question.
Okay.
Can we unequivocally know that there are no planned encroachments on the trust?
We don't reply. We don't reply. If you want to get together with the city manager, fine. Karen Dutcher, regarding the fence. Hope I pronounced that right.
Karen Dutcher, 79 and 83 Richards Avenue. I would like to ask the City Council members to disclose your reason for erecting a chain-link fence through my neighborhood. A permanent fence that is 1 foot or less from my house and allows no gates. A fence that walls the residents of this section of Richards Avenue from future access to the JFK site, recreational fields, South Mill Pond, and the south end of Portsmouth. Robert Frost in his poem Mending Wall suggests, before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. So the question is, why are you walling us in? If it is for our protection, why not a fence around the entire site? Why not concern for all of the others who access the JFK lot on a regular basis? If it is for construction, why a permanent fence that will remain long after the project is completed? The council and many community members have asked me to make a sacrifice to accommodate a new library on the JFK site, even chastised me for rejecting such a good neighbor. But does a good neighbor or city erect a fence less than a foot from my home? Do they prevent me from easily accessing the very building they have asked me to sacrifice for? Do they force me to walk at least 3 to 4 blocks to park, even if I can find a parking place? Do they place my property in danger by limiting access in case of fire? And finally, do they cause me financial hardship by devaluing my rental property and therefore the value of both my homes? I would like to think that this council would not intentionally do those things to a property owner, that this decision was made without full consideration of the impact to my neighborhood, that this is not a spite fence as some feel it is, for that would be the most alarming thought of all, that because some people exercise their right to free speech, they were now being walled in. Please do not erect this permanent fence. Please allow a free and open flow between the JFK site and the Richard Avenue's homes that have shared property lines for so many years and cared for that space so well. Please do not ask us to accept more hardships. To quote Robert Frost a final time, something there is that does not love a wall. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Karen. Seth Hill Fence.
That's a tough act to follow. It's a really good speech. My question is, and I guess I'm not allowed to ask questions, so make this a rhetorical one and hope I can get an answer somehow. My question is, in the architectural design, was there a design for a fence? And if not, why is there a fence coming up? And I ask this because I'm directly related, but I think, or going to be affected by it, but I think we all are. And I think we've all come to the conclusion that we know the library's going in there. Some of us are for it and against it. That's that. But we all know it's going in. Let's not make it worse for the people who have to live there. And that's it. Thanks. I'm a little nervous.
Thank you, Seth. You're welcome to send a letter, and you will get a reply by us. Christine Duffy, JFK Fence.
Madam Mayor and members of the committee, my name is Christine Duffy, and I live at 87 Richards Avenue. I have lived there all my life. I had my land surveyed in 1992 by Millett and Associates. I have a fence, and there was a fence there when they did the survey. The fence was wood. I replaced it with a chain link, and I have a gate in my chain link fence. And the reason I have a gate is because I had a lease from the city of Portsmouth for the land in back of my house. I had the length of my property, and the depth went back 30 feet. The city gave all of the homeowners on that side of the street leases for that because they banned parking on the street. School buses could not get by, even if you parked on one side. So therefore, they said, you can have the land in back. So I replaced the fence, I had a gate, and I had a garden in back. The lease also said, and the lease was drawn up by the then city attorney, who was Peter Laughlin. And in the lease it said, if the lease is canceled, you will receive a 30-day notice. To this day, I have not received a 30-day notice on that lease. I have a gate there, and I said, do I dig up my flowers and forget that I was tending this land, or what should I do? I found this letter from the city attorney almost hostile when he says that there will be no gates or any access ways. Why, if you do put up boundaries, and there are boundaries for the property, why cannot these people have a gate, and why can't they have an access way? My goodness, I remember Mr. Reagan say, take down that wall, Mr. Gorbachev, and what's going on over in Israel right now, that they're building a wall. Now you're becoming very hostile, I think, to the residents of Richards Avenue. And I would hope that all the members would take a good look at what's going on to that neighborhood. Because even if you make it a one-way street, we're not going to be able to park on that first area because buses cannot get by. I think you need to look at what is the urgency. That was the other thing. This letter was dated July 16th, and I got it on the 18th. I think it was the 18th. And it says that it's expected that the layout will begin on July 22nd. What's the urgency? My two questions. What's the urgency of putting up this fence, and why can there not be gates and access way to all the people who live in that neighborhood? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. Robert, and I can't read the other name, but the last name is Warner, and he's going to speak to the fence, too. Robert, and what was the other name? Marie? Mary? Okay, and Mary.
My wife Mary and I, excuse me, own the property at 121, 123 Richards Avenue. We lived there for 10 years or more ourselves. We have friends who live in the property that we own there now, and we expect to retire there in our old age sometime in the future. It's important property to us. I would like to clarify just a few issues, most of which have been touched upon at one point or another, but won't hurt to reiterate them at this time. If the reason for the proposed fence is safety, as we've been told by the City Council, then why isn't the whole site being fenced in? I think this is a fundamental question of logic and fairness, and if that can't be answered, then I fear for this body and for the city. Only one leg of the fence is being constructed, the one behind the abutters' yards, to the tune of up to $15,000 if all the yards need to be fenced in, or so that figure has been bandied about. Not even the section that faces the children's playground is being fenced in, only the abutters' side. 2, if the reason for the proposed fence is to, as we have been told, mark a boundary, why can't that be done with inexpensive surveyor's tape and stakes? How intense does the information or the message have to be made to let abutters know, hey, this is where the boundary is? 3, it would be a change of landscaping plans, I think very clearly, to install a permanent fence. In the previous plans for the library, there were talk and drawn-up plans about pleasant landscaping and trying to make the site attractive to neighbors. There was no talk about a tall chain-link fence with no ability for neighbors to visit the library through their backyards. One would have thought that easy access to the library from the people who live in this neighborhood was one of the benefits of having a neighborhood library at this particular site. 4, at this time, Mary and I feel that a fence is unnecessary. There is no builder for the library. There is no building date. The site isn't even entirely approved yet, as near as we can tell. If demolition and construction were indeed imminent, then perhaps that's a different question. And a temporary construction fence, and I emphasize temporary, around the whole site might then make sense. A fence running just across the yards of the abutters makes no sense at all, and actually might be construed, as someone who spoke before me used the word hostile, a hostile act. Finally, has anyone determined that the armory as it stands right now is unsafe, thus justifying a hurry-up safety fence? If it were indeed, and I've walked around the armory and I'm in construction as part of my means of earning a living, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the armory, and there doesn't seem to be anything that's imminently going to hurt someone who happens to be nearby. If there were something like that, then either that a temporary and quick remedy could be made if there were small issues like that, or at least some sort of proof of the danger, I think, would need to be offered. Finally, we can see no evidence of any loose bricks, nor heard of any study deeming this building unsafe. The children's playground in the rear is even closer to the armory than the abutters' homes, yet somehow that leg of the fence has been deemed unnecessary right now. We think that the fence is ill-conceived, unnecessarily expensive, illogical, and precipitously decided upon, and certainly unnecessary at the present time. Please don't erect this fence.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. That ends
Madam
the...
Mayor, did he give his address?
Your address, sir?
121, 123.
You live at 121 and 123?
Yes, I do not live there now. I lived there at 121 for 10 years.
Where do you live now?
I live in Raleigh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends the public comment session. I would like to announce right now, under our city manager, when we get to his action items and comments, he will be talking about the fence. So if you want to wait around, fine, or go home and listen to it on the TV, whatever you want to do. But John, Mr. Bohico comes later on in the agenda. Thank you very much. Now we're down to the public hearing, and I'd like to say a few words before I open the public hearing. The public hearing is in regards to the proposed relocation of the fire department monument from Station 2, located at Lafayette Road, to Station 1, located on Court Street. I tried to stop the public hearing on the fire department monument when I received former firefighters Dan Hovey's letter. But the public hearing had already been posted in the newspaper. I then called Peter Happney, the blacksmith who created that outstanding monument for the firefighters at Station 1. He told me he did not feel it should be moved because it is very likely to maybe fall apart. It's very fragile from sitting there over the years. He paid me a visit again today and explained more. But out of his explanations, at the end, he said 4 very important words that really hit me. Go forward, not backwards. So that is what I'm going to see if we can't do to work with the firemen from Station 1 to see if they can't do another monument. Also work with Art Speaks and all of that. So that's where we are. But I will open the public hearing, but it is at a moot point right now. I will read it one more time. Proposed relocation of fire department monument from Station 2, located at Lafayette Road, to Station 1, located on Court Street. Do I have any first-time speakers? Please come forward, state your name and your address, please. Second time around, do I have any speakers? Third and final time before I close this hearing, do I have any speakers? Closed. Thank you all very much for coming. Now we're down to the approval of grants and donations. Donation to the Portsmouth Police Honor Guard in the amount of $500 from Coast Pontiac Cadillac GMC. Who would like to make the motion? Councilors?
Councilor Whitehouse.
Councilor Whitehouse, sorry.
I move to accept the donations to the Portsmouth Police Department as listed. And I'd like to package them both.
Okay.
Second.
$500 and $12.
Very good. But they go to different things. Your donation of $12 in cash goes to the Portsmouth Police Explorer unit.
Yeah.
Okay? Not to the
Department.
Portsmouth Honor Guard. But why don't you make the motion for both of them?
Okay.
Carol?
Your Honor, I move to accept the donations to the Portsmouth Police Department and the Honor Guard in the sum of $500 and $12.
Does he get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We're down to considerations of resolutions and ordinances. First reading of ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 2, Section 10-202, amendment to rezone the Portsmouth Circle Business Center as general business. What's your wish, councilors?
I'll recommend that the City Council move to pass first reading of the amended ordinance as submitted
Second.
and schedule a public hearing and second reading at the August 16th City Council meeting, such that action on this item should take place under Section 9 of the agenda.
Very good. Discussion? No discussion. Being no discussion, we're all ready for the vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Second reading of ordinance amending Chapter 10, Article 1, Section 10-102, definitions, and Section 10-208, Table 4, regarding regulation issues on the ground floor of property in the Central Business A and B District and related ordinance provisions. This was tabled from the June 21st, 2004 City Council meeting.
Move to remove from the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Your Honor, I think that as per our discussion at the work session, I'd like to move that we keep this on the table and until an overlay map can be drawn up by the planning department to present to the council, because we found there were instances where maybe, the planning board, where there were instances where maybe a residential, eliminating the residential use on the first floor might not be the way to go. Is that?
Your Honor, if I might,
Yes,
I
Bob.
think this motion needs to be to continue it to a date certain,
Okay.
or council meeting certain.
September would be fine, first meeting September.
All right. I move that we table this item till our September meeting.
I will second that motion.
All right. Discussion? Being no discussion, we're ready for the vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Presentations and considerations of written communications and petitions. A letter from Valerie Cunningham requesting the closure of a small portion of Chestnut Street and the erection of a memorial for the African Burial Guard. If you would give me the option to speak on this, I will pass my gavel to the Assistant Mayor.
Assistant Mayor has assumed the chair and recognizes the mayor.
This being a very, very touchy thing, I feel that we should get a blue ribbon committee together like we did with Councilor Hines and all of the people working it out. So that's what I'm going to ask for tonight, to allow your mayor to set up a blue ribbon committee. And if I get the vote, anyone that would like to be on that committee, please submit your name to me.
The mayor's made a motion to establish a blue ribbon committee to report back to the council. Do I hear a second?
Second the motion.
Seconded by Councilor Whitehouse. Any discussion? Discussion, Councilor Whitehouse.
Yes, Your Honor, I wish you had incorporated into your motion a time certain on that issue.
Can do that, definitely.
I leave it up to you to time
It's going to
certain.
be kind of hard because, like with John's, it took a little bit
Yeah.
for it to all come together. But this isn't going to be something that's going to be done quickly, because who do we have, John, involved in this?
Well, if I might, Your Honor.
Yes.
Because I think there's
Mayor recognizes the city manager.
thank you, Assistant Mayor. There's a number of people involved, including the state archaeologist, the African American community. There is the city staff, along with stakeholders, property owners down in that area. So Clearly, the city has been very attentive to the issue down there, and we want to continue to do it in a very deliberate way so that we can accommodate, at the end of the day, the descendant community.
Councilor Hines.
Thank you, Your Honor. Having worked with the Martin Luther King Recognition Committee, I can tell you that hurrying any of these moves is not the first preference. We want to do it right. So in the interest of studying this issue, which is a little complicated and costly, I do support a committee to study the issue and in due time get the job done right. Everybody will be happy.
Any further discussion? Am I missing anyone? Are you ready for the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Turn the chair back over to the
Thank
mayor.
you, Assistant Mayor. Appreciate that. The next one is a request for a sidewalk obstruction license from Dos Amigos Burritos to place, that's a tongue twister, to place one bench in front of his establishment.
Move to city manager with power.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. We're down to the city manager now, and city manager has 5 items that require action tonight.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first item that I wanted to talk about was a request from the City Council regarding a work session on the budget process. And the budget process, not only the budget process, but the budget format for fiscal year 06. I believe Councilor Farini had just started discussion, and the rest of the council asked me to come back with a suggested work session date. We had already set aside an open date on Monday, September 27th, 2004, for a work session, and I would suggest that be used for the discussion of the FY06 budget process and format. I've discussed the matter with the Assistant Mayor, and he'll be having a joint Budget Committee meeting sometime earlier that month. I believe it'll be about a week before, Assistant Mayor. I think it's the 20th, September, 20th. So given that, I thought it was important to have the JBC first, and then have the work session at 6:30 on the 27th to talk about the items of the budget.
Very good, John. Thank you. Yes.
Just a question, Madam Mayor. Presumably there is not a regular meeting that night. It's just a straight workshop. Okay.
No, we have a meeting on the 20th.
Yeah.
Could I have a motion on that?
Move to establish a work session on Monday, September 27th, for the budget process and format for fiscal year 06.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed. Continue on, Tom.
Did you have any
Do you
other?
have any other questions?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item, I'd like to have Rick Hopley come forward and speak to this issue just briefly. It's regarding the building code ordinance change. It is to request to bring back first reading for August 16th meeting, and I'll let Rick speak to the issue.
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'll keep this this proposed change, which I'm assuming you have copies of the proposed change.
Yes, I vote.
Would change the provisions of the recently adopted International Residential Code that we worked on last year to be similar to the former Boca Building Code that the city has had in existence since the 70s. There are 3 major items that I'd like to impart on you this evening. First, the amendment only affects new construction, and that construction of townhouse-type structures only. Second, the amendment is an option, and it's not a mandate in any way. And third, it does provide the designers with a third choice in the way they would design and have built townhouse-type structures, and giving a very tempting incentive to sprinkle these types of buildings, fire sprinkle these buildings. Currently, the current International Residential Code makes no mention of fire sprinklers in these types of structures and doesn't give any incentive to do it. Again, it's not a sprinkler mandate, It's simply a third choice. I keep it at that if there are any questions.
And, Your Honor, what we're looking for is a vote to allow me to bring back for first reading for your August 16th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Rick. The next item, Your Honor, if you recall back about 2 months ago, a downtown businessman came before us and asked that the City Council develop a review of potential ways to remove graffiti from private buildings. We've been working over the last couple months gathering information on how other cities and towns do that. I provided you with a copy of the report. I also provided the gentleman with a copy of the report as well. As you can see from the report, the city does an excellent job in removing graffiti immediately from city-owned property. But one of the things that we will have to evaluate is how we are able to work with private properties to remove graffiti. And my suggestion is that because this has economic ramifications for downtown businesses, that I would recommend that this matter be referred to the Economic Development Commission for their review and report back to the City Council. It's going to be a more complex issue than just going out and removing graffiti from private buildings. We can do it on public buildings, and we do it very aggressively. But on private buildings, it's going to take probably a number of legal aspects along with some finances.
I would move that the City Council support that recommendation.
Second.
Discussion. Councilor Whitehouse?
Yes, John, I'm amazed at reading what takes place in Manchester and Phoenix, Arizona, Salt Lake City, Utah, and some of the cities throughout the country, the policy that they have and the ordinances they have. But, you know, nothing is referred to as a police work prior to the removal.
I'm sorry,
where did it originate from? Where did the graffiti originate from? Are the police doing any picture taking or testing of the material to see where it came from and try to find the culprits? And all these policies and ordinances and rules that they have that you put in front of us in various cities, there's nothing mentioned about ongoing police work.
That's probably a valid point, Councilor, but my charge was to bring back options for graffiti removal, not investigation. I can do that if you'd like.
No, but it's just unusual to read what other cities are doing, but yet no reference to police work prior to removal.
I can talk to the chief about that.
Any other discussion? Yes, Assistant Mayor Hanson.
I was really impressed with the research in the number of communities that use volunteers. I would assume instead of using the police department, we'd be working with Public Works, but Burlington, Vermont uses the first response team, and Phoenix, graffiti busters, and volunteer labors. I think that's wonderful. Salt Lake does it. They do it in Colorado, and I think our downtown neighborhood association probably would be a great organization that could do it if it was low, not hazardous, but in working with the business community. So I think some good things can come out of this.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item is request for approval of poll license agreement 63409. The City Public Works Department has reviewed the poll license location information provided by PSNH for petition of poll license 63409. PSNH is moving the poll number 63 to accommodate the city's traffic signal improvements at the corner of State and Middle Streets.
The city, the assistant mayor has assumed the chair and will entertain a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Public Works Department has advised me that the installation of this pole would pose no impact to existing city infrastructure and recommends approval of this license at this time.
Do I hear a motion, Councilor Whitehouse?
Yes, so move, Your Honor.
Do I hear a second?
Second. I'd like to speak to this.
Madam Mayor?
All right. I had two people visit me this morning at 7:30 in the parking lot before I'd even gotten up to my office. I gave the city manager these pictures and spoke to him about one other. Now, I have no intention of voting for this tonight unless I am assured by the Public Service and Verizon that they're going to do something with these things. Now, I'll pass these pictures to you. One of them is on Lincoln Avenue, and as you can see, it's right in their driveway. And the pole is going like that. The other one is one that has been asked for by a police commissioner, Bill Devine, many, many times. And that is a pole at the corner of South Street and Newcastle Avenue. Now, I want an insurance on this, or I will vote no tonight.
May I speak to the issue?
Yes, the city manager?
Your Honor, is correct that she did give me both those items this morning. I've given them to the Public Works Director. We're going to speak with PSNH. With regard to giving them assurances, I don't know what the infrastructure requirement is going to be to move those, so we are going to talk to them. I will convey the message that the City Council is concerned with the location of those poles, but I can't give any assurances tonight that those will be moved, but I can tell you that we've started working with them on it.
And Councilor Grasso?
Thank you. I also would like to have someone look at the corner of Lafayette Road and Wilson. There's a pole, and then there's another pole leaning against it that,
Where is it?
the corner of Lafayette Road and Wilson. And there's an old pole that it appears to be that needs to come down because it's leaning at quite an angle against a pole. So I don't know, may I ask the city attorney, do we have a right to say no?
Yes, you do.
Before we have to give mouth to mouth
I'm up next.
to the city manager, let the mayor speak,
You
and then
know,
we'll do the...
councilors, I know you've been out there in the middle of all of this digging up on different streets. But right now, they are in front of this woman's home on Lincoln Avenue. Now is the time to have it moved before they tar over, before they put up curbing or anything else. So that's why I'm being very emphatic about this tonight. I can't help it because I've been on this council too long with promises that never took place.
The city manager and then Councilor Panalakis.
Your Honor, my suggestion would be this pole actually that we're moving is actually for a city project. So I would ask that your indulgence and the council's to proceed with this one. We'll have plenty more pole licenses in the future. I know that I believe a couple of years ago the city council, because of duplicate poles, stopped approving pole licenses. I worked with PSNH, and at the time it wasn't their issue, it was Verizon's issue. I'd like to try again to work in this way and try to correct these situations. But you'll have future opportunities to deny their pole licenses.
Councilor Pantelakis is next.
Yes, I believe that if any of these people that have poles that are endangering, that they can call the Public Utilities Commission in Concord, and they will talk to whoever owns these poles to see that they're taken care of, because they are supposed to be taken down and taken care of, and they govern the telephone companies and the public service and those. So I would recommend that they call there and ask if they can do anything about having these poles taken down. They're in danger.
Any further discussion? Councilor Reynolds?
Could I ask that the city manager explain in a little bit more detail the project or the what's being requested here and the link to the city project and the potential detriment to the city project if we do indeed deny the pole license?
I don't think there's a detriment to the city project. It's just getting the project done, that's all. But you can deny it. They'll just have to come back, that's all. You can see in the pictures where those poles are located. So I think
it looks like they're moving one pole 10 feet and then removing 4 other poles when this is done?
That is my understanding. And if you want to table it or until the next meeting, that's fine too.
Councilor Ferrini?
My question would be, taking into consideration the mayor's points and Joanne's about poles that obviously need some attention, if we seek to link one to the other, and in this case, I guess my question to the city manager would be, does public service care if we do not agree to this license? And where I'm going with this is, and I'm offering this as discussion to the general subject, is there a manner in which we can direct a letter to them to say that the council has expressed its desire that polls be dealt with quickly and promptly, and that the council is well aware of its legal rights to refuse such licenses in the future and would actively consider its rights under such circumstances? I guess I would like to see, however we come down on this, give the city manager an opportunity to tell them what they probably already know. And I guess my question goes back to the polls that we're talking about. If they don't feel any impact from us making a request, I don't know if we're directing our complaint in the right direction. I don't know.
Councilor Hines?
Thank you, Your Honor. Obviously, these issues that have been brought up require immediate attention and correction. So I would recommend that we authorize the city manager to follow up on the correctional issues, and having corrected all of those that have been brought up, return to the council for a vote.
Any further discussion? City manager have anything further? No. Okay, are you ready for a vote on
excuse me,
this poll?
Mr. Mayor, could I ask for a little bit of a response from the city manager to the issue that Councilor Ferrini raised, the question that he raised, which was, does PSNH care if we deny this request tonight, or is this something that they're doing at our request because it's a city project?
Well, I think it's a combination of, they have thousands, tens of thousands of polls in New Hampshire, so they'll move on to the next one. I just think that, I understand where the mayor's coming from. I got the information today. I'll follow up on it. PSNH has really been good about responding. One of the things that they have, the companies that they've had problems with is Verizon a lot of times and moving the wires. They have been very difficult to deal with. So, I mean, it's up to you. I would prefer to see this poll license be adopted, and I will advise them that unless they accommodate these issues regarding these other two polls, that future poll license will be scrutinized. I think they need fair warning, is what I'm saying.
Councilor Panalakis?
If we don't do this poll at this time, are we going to have to repave in that area when they do move it?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. I didn't expect it to be this much of an issue. Sorry.
Councilor Reynolds?
Well, based on everything that's been said, including the responses from the city manager, I mean, these four polls are certainly four very unsightly polls in the vicinity of in the intersection that is currently undergoing the process of substantial upgrade and beautification. So I would be reluctant to hold up that process, but I do like the suggestion of my colleague, Councilor Ferrini, perhaps a letter to PSNH and Verizon, and if it's a matter of getting the two to play nice with each other, then we have to be emphatic about, our authority and our power to withhold future requests for things like antennas or whatever, that we expect better cooperation from them in dealing with issues like these residences polls, and the poll that Councilor Grasso mentioned. It's got, another unsightly one leaning against it and holding it up. So I'd like to see us proceed with this tonight, but accomplish something in terms of getting better cooperation from PSNH and Verizon in the future.
I think John's written to the Public Utilities Commission before, and we've got some
that was how we got the duplicate polls done. We got them.
I'd be happy to make that an amendment, if we indeed need an amendment.
I'll just send a letter to both PSNH and Verizon.
Mayor Sorrell?
I will renege on my asking about this, but all I've got to say is, God help us if they come back here and these things haven't been done. That's my feeling.
We will give them fair warning.
Thank you.
You said that.
Thank you, John.
My only concern is that we requested the pole to accommodate city's traffic signal improvement, so I think that's a safety issue, and as chairman of the traffic and safety, I'm concerned. Are we ready for the vote? And the motion is to approve it. You didn't amend it, right, Mayor? Okay.
No, I did not.
You just weren't going to vote for it.
I am not making a motion for an amendment, and I
Okay.
withdraw it to the...
All right, so we got just an approval, and I think Councilor Whitehouse made that motion. Are we ready for the vote? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
I'll send,
Carries.
thank you. I'll send copies of the letter that we send out to you. Proposed
Thank you,
installation of the New Hampshire Public Radio repeater. We've been working with New Hampshire Public Radio for a while to put up an antenna on top of City Hall so that they can get better reception. And we, from a staff perspective, we don't have a lot of concern about it. I gave you a copy of a picture that shows we superimpose what the antenna would look like. It's already surrounded by other antennas at this location. I was unsure, and to try to make sure I cover all bases, I wanted to just send this to the planning board for their review.
HTC.
And the HDC?
It can be sent to the HDC.
And the HDC if you'd like. The staff, like I said, does not have a problem with the antenna. We understand the need for the antenna in this part of the state, and but we feel that if we can get the planning board and the HDC, then we would come back to the city council with that recommendation. That would be what I would be proposing tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ready for the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Your Honor. Now that we're done with the action items, one item that does remain is the issue that we talked about earlier regarding the fence along the perimeter of the JFK to the abutting Richards Avenue property owners. I've discussed this matter with a couple of the property owners and indicated to them that there were some valid concerns. What I would suggest is going forward, if there is a fence to be put in, that it be done with a construction fence style that would surround the perimeter of the entire property, and that the Traffic and Safety Committee, along with the Parking Committee, take a look at Richards Avenue, the one-way issue, however it might play out from Parrott to Middle, et cetera, and proceed in that manner. And then once the library is built and the construction fence comes down, I'd like to be able to work with the property owners on an appropriate fence material that might be in the interests of the city aesthetically as well as the neighborhood. And in many instances we do work with citizens, and sometimes they participate in the cost to upgrade things, and so we might want to look at that. But my suggestion to the city council would be to install a construction fence around the perimeter of the entire property. That way it can be removed at the end, similar to what's at the high school right now. It's about a fourth the cost, and we'd have to put in a construction fence anyways once we start construction. And then concurrently talk to the Traffic and Safety Committee about how we're going to deal with one-way, because we'd probably want to put parking on Richards Avenue in that area to accommodate the residents' needs. So that would be the sum and substance of my recommendation to the City Council.
Looking for a motion?
Yes, Your Honor, and Councilor Pantelakis, I'd be looking for a motion.
Would you make it, please,
I move.
Counselor?
I move that we fence the whole construction site all the way around it.
And refer the matter?
Refer the matter to the Traffic and Safety.
Do I get a second, please?
Second for purposes of discussion, but I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Go right to it.
Thank you, Chair. Understanding that that's what we would do in the event this motion passes, we did not put any temporal limitation on the motion. So
Help me out. What?
When?
Okay. Thank you. Is that Latin?
The question would be, does it go, at what point do safety requirements compel that it goes up?
Well, I'd be looking for direction from the city council on that matter.
Yes, Ned, and then Councilor Whitehouse.
I think that in light of the concerns that have been raised on a number of dimensions on this issue, I think that your recommendation, John, to go with just a temporary construction site, security type fence for the purposes of securing the site is a good one. I would suggest that the date that fence goes up be the latest possible date for the purposes that we're doing it, which is, I assume that deconstruction of the JFK building is when we would need that fence. So if we know at this point a date when we're going to start deconstruction of the JFK building, I would suggest that we time the erection of the fence, for the week before, because it's certainly going to be relatively unsightly, and I don't think we need to subject anybody to the sight of that fence for, any longer than necessary.
Councilor Whitehouse.
So this construction fence will be at the entrance of the JFK Center, which will block off all vehicles and pedestrians from going into that site.
That would be the intent, because, of course, when construction commences, you don't want people in that site.
Your Honor, I feel we're far from even thinking about construction of the library in that site. And we had 8 speakers, and 7 of the speakers at the public comment sessions indicated, what is the rush? Why are we moving this so swiftly? And naturally, I'm going to vote against this. We should be listening to those Richards Avenue people. This is going to create a burden upon those people, a hardship, and I think we should just step back and take a long, hard look at what we're doing. This is not right, and I'll be voting against this, and I think the library issue is still a long ways off. It has many hoops to go through, and many T's to dot and T's to cross and I's to dot. So I say we're rushing into this, and I ask my fellow councilors, please, just step back and take a long, hard look at what we're doing.
Councilor Grasso, and then Councilor Pandalakis, and then down to Steve.
Thank you, Your Honor. As a member of the new library building committee, I was given to understand that we would be breaking ground probably in about 2 or 3 months. So I don't think the library issue is a long way off. My comment was that the end of this month, school starts. And if one of our concerns is the safety issues on that lot, that no one get hurt and that hold the city responsible, that I would like to see that fence up before the start of school, which is, I think, the very last week in August. I think it would be a safety factor to make sure the children don't wander through the empty lot.
Councilor Pandalakis?
Yes, I also feel that it's a safety issue. It's a liability for anyone, for this city, for anyone that's parking in that parking lot and slips and falls or hurts themselves. And they've been furnished, that neighborhood has been furnished free parking, free plowing, free removal of everything there for as long as they live there. And all we're asking for is to take our property back as a city and build a library on it. If we make the road one way, they're going to be able to park their cars out in the front, and we're not hurt. I don't see why we should be so upset over the construction site being put up the way it is. If there's a lawsuit, the other taxpayers are going to pay that bill on it. And that can happen. And we have a construction site there, and that's what we ought to think about.
Councilor Marchand?
Thank you.
As somebody who is a strong supporter of the library being built at that location, I think that it's important to state that it should be, obviously it's a very politically charged discussion anytime it touches on the library in any way. But I would note that this is not directly about whether you think the library should or should not be built there. And I, again, reiterate that I think it should be built there, and it should be built there soon. And I think that it will be built there soon. That said, I agree with those that have said to put the fence up sooner than it needs to be, I think only takes a pretty politically charged situation and makes it unnecessarily more so. So as strongly as I feel that fence should be up around just before construction or deconstruction would begin, I guess I feel almost as strongly as somebody who kind of likes finding consensus where you can, that you don't do it too much earlier than you need to, because it probably will be pretty unsightly. And unless somebody can tell me that the building as it currently stands before active deconstruction begins is an unusual liability, I would be inclined to wait until we actually have deconstruction beginning to put up the temporary fence.
Assistant Mayor Hanson?
I'm going to ask for a division on the question, because if this motion goes down, you referred it to traffic and safety, and I want to get traffic and safety working on this. But whenever you do it, I'd prefer traffic and safety have it and we do it right, work with the neighborhood, talk about the one-way, which direction, how much of it is one-way, whether it's all one-way or half. So if we could do the division of the question, vote referring it to traffic and safety to look at that issue and turning school buses around on the whole 9 yards, we'll just go full speed ahead with that, and then you'll be ready whenever you do put the fence up.
Do that one first.
Okay.
So I'm asking for a division of the question.
Yeah, why don't we do that first? But there's a hand that's gone up down here, 3 hands. Councilor Hines, Ned, and then Laura.
I think that last suggestion was a very prudent one, and all I would ask is that the neighbors act as prudent as the council is trying to do.
Ned?
Yeah, I'm glad that you suggested that, Alex, because I think that basically the fence is going, and once we fence the site in, we're going to be foreclosing access to the parking that the residents have enjoyed for so long. It's going to create that inconvenience, that loss of property value to the extent that, renters now don't have a parking space. I agree with Laura in the sense that I don't think that, it's something that they've been enjoying as a benefit for many years, and it's not the city's responsibility. They don't have a property right that they're entitled to continue, but I think we should do everything that we can to accommodate. So I think that we should await the recommendation and a solution, really, if we can. I'm not saying I don't want to hold up any aspect of the library project, but if we can get resolution on the parking issue, the one-way issue from traffic and safety before going with the fence, I would want to do that.
Councilor Pantelakis?
Yes, should we put a time certain when the fence should be up? Because it needs to be up at least a month before the construction starts, because they need to demolish the building, much less bring in the equipment to work on the building and whatnot.
Sure.
And by then the traffic and safety should have the issue resolved.
John?
I think the assistant mayor is correct, and I don't know if anybody divided the question, but my suggestion would be to vote on the referral to the Traffic and Safety Committee first. And then Councilor Pantelakis also makes a good point. We need to, within 30 days of construction, make sure we have the report back from Traffic and Safety and to put up the fence.
You're figuring that your lay down is going to be on that side where all the cars park.
Well, what's going to happen is, like at the high school, if you've noticed the high school, a lot of that's all fenced in. So where they've done the construction and the deconstruction, that has been entirely fenced in with construction fence. And it's probably 30 days prior to them going in there. I know that they did that in advance of the demolition of that facility too. So I guess my suggestion is to follow up on what the assistant mayor said, is to vote on referring to the Traffic and Safety Committee. And then the second part of that would be that no later than 30 days prior to the to the start of construction. You know, is that something that I've heard?
Yeah, I know it needs to be in there at least 30 days prior to it.
Through the demolition or the construction?
It would have to be the demolition, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Councilor Whitehouse and then Councilor Reynolds.
Yes, even with the division of the question, I will be voting against you. You're just delaying this issue, and you're going to upset more people, and this is something that shouldn't be hung over their heads for a long length of time, and I will vote against the division and vote against the main motion, anything pertaining to what we're proposing to do, blocking off the JFK and future proposed library site location.
So I'll make a motion for division of the question.
Second.
Very good. Ned, are you all set?
No, discussion.
Okay.
I'm taking it that the people of Richards Avenue have come here tonight in good faith and voiced their concerns about the issue of the fence. And I think we ought to do, and that I don't think, I'm not perceiving it, and I wouldn't expect that it's an issue of another way to delay the construction of the library. In return for that good faith, I think we should extend every courtesy that we can to minimize the inconvenience that's going to occur. I don't know why there's a magic figure of 30 days before anything happens on a site that a fence needs to go up. It seems to me that the safety hazard is going to be created the day that cranes and dumpsters roll onto that site to start deconstruction. So it seems to me that the fence needs to be in place, a couple of days before the cranes and the dumpsters show up.
Yeah, the one thing
I don't know why it would have to be 30 days before, and I would hope that we could get expeditious action from the traffic and safety on the one-way, the parking issue, and if we can possibly get a resolution there before we have to fence off the parking, I think we should try and do it.
I would say that 30 days, I think, it gives you the leeway when you set up with the contracts and things of that sort. I just think it probably to get people used to the activity that's going to take place, the lack of access to that site. I think 30 days is probably reasonable. But, I think the first key issue is going to be traffic and safety.
Right. Tom?
Just perhaps a question for the city attorney. Is the 30-day issue, if so-called, impacted by the lease referenced by Ms. Duffy? Is there such a lease or easement or such a document that?
Well, unfortunately, at the time the city gave those agreements out, the record keeping in the city wasn't what it would be today. We have suspected there might be one of those agreements still out there, but nobody has come forward until tonight with it. So we will. Right. So obviously, the letter that went out last week amounts to notice that 30 days would be running. So I don't think there's any implication. Thank you for the decision.
Councilor Pandalakis?
Yes, I would suggest that the people that rent there get used to using the parking lot that's with the school there. It's just a short walk from their houses and there's plenty of parking there. You could tell your tenants there. It's a very short walk, and they wouldn't, it isn't not much more than, of course, the fence that you have cut that walks into your house. I would like to know who constructed that fence and cut the holes in it. I thought that was city property, and I was kind of curious to how the walk-ins got in there, but I would suggest that people get used to working in the area, walking down to just where the middle school is and parking.
I think it's time to move the question on this.
One more question.
Quick parliamentary inquiry. I believe that your debate right now is limited to division of the question.
Okay.
Right.
That's the issue that we're getting ready to vote on.
All right. Okay.
Well, I think it's related because I'm wondering is there a date? Do we have a date in mind now that deconstruction is going to begin on the JFK site?
We are in the process of interviewing construction management firms, and once we have that in place, we'll be looking at setting up some schedules.
Ballpark?
I could see it depending on 90 to 120 days, depending on,
Today.
Yeah.
So does that is a 90-day window enough time for traffic and safety
I would
to?
hope so. Oh, we're going to work
Okay.
a lot faster.
We're going to work on it a lot sooner than that. Okay.
All right, we all ready for the question?
This is the vote on division.
This is the vote on division. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Now we're down to,
Get a vote on both of them.
what was the second one, Alex?
Well, now we've decided to divide the question. The question is whether you want to refer this to traffic and
Okay.
safety. And if you
Okay.
do want to refer it to traffic and safety, I will tell you that I have given a heads up to our parking and transportation director earlier today. We will be putting the agenda together on Wednesday. On the 19th is a traffic and safety meeting right here in City Council chambers at 8 a.m. An on-site committee will be at Richards and Parrott Avenue on the 17th. They call that on-site, and we would invite any neighbors with your recommendations, and we'll try to be there we're just coming down from City Hall, so it'll be about 5 or 10 after 8. We'll be down in that location, and we'd love to get your input, okay, because we want to do this right the first time. So that's the 17th of August for our initial. We'll get your input, then we'll be voting on something, taking all of that input and bringing it to the full Traffic and Safety Committee on the 19th. And so that will be the first bite at the apple on this, okay?
All right. So we're all ready to refer.
Right.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Now,
I kind of want to vote it with Harold, but I'll vote.
you what?
I said I wanted to vote with Harold, but boy, this is a big issue. Getting this squared away, and the school buses and the one-ways.
We've waited long enough personally.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what's the next part?
Is the construction of the fence.
Is the construction of the fence. Do I have a motion for that?
There's a motion on the floor. You divided the
Okay,
question.
we divided it.
Right, so it's a construction fence at
Perimeter.
appropriate time is.
At the
All
appropriate
around the
time.
construction fence.
Okay, do I get a second on that?
The motion, that the
Second
construction
the
fence be,
motion. Huh? What, John?
do I have the floor?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. I second that motion on the basis that the construction fence be constructed following the confirmation that the library construction is within 30 days of beginning.
Very good. Tom?
If that's a proposed amendment, I'll second it.
Friendly amendment to the?
That's an amendment. I'm voting on the amendment, and I'm
Well, did you offer?
voting it on the basis of what I just stated.
I understand that, and so what I guess it's not my place to ask, but I would ask the chair to perhaps inquire of Councilor Hines whether or not his statement rises to the level of a proposed amendment.
Would Chris read the motion again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear that, John?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What's your answer again?
Well, I'm not about to amend an amendment without having cleared at least one of the issues.
Okay.
So I'll withdraw my support, the second on this amendment.
Okay. Read the first motion.
Okay, what I have so far is a motion to move to erect the construction fence around the whole property, and I didn't have a specific date. I did hear at an appropriate time.
Your Honor, I'd like to.
Did I get a second on that first?
Yeah, it was seconded.
It was second. Councilor Reynolds?
Well, okay, I heard Councilor Hines say that he was withdrawing his second. So if that was the case, then I wanted to second with a friendly amendment to the motion that states replaces appropriate time with a time relative to commencement of the deconstruction activity. So I would say second the motion with an amendment that says the fence will be erected no sooner than, no more than 30 days prior to the commencement of deconstruction activities on the site.
Very good. Second on that?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I'm trying to make sure that it was an amendment to the original motion. I think it is.
It's 30 days prior.
It was intended.
That's why we got one of these assistant, we got a city attorney here to keep us
Yeah,
going.
that all right? Are we doing all right?
Okay. All right. Geez, you got me all messed up here. All right, so we're voting on the amendment.
No,
All right.
On the amendment, no.
On the
It
amendment.
was a friendly amendment.
Joanne,
The friendly amendment can be accepted without having to be voted.
it was, Bob?
Only if it's
I
accepted by
think
the
you need to
neighborhood.
vote on the amendment, Your Honor.
Yeah, we have to vote on the amendment. All right, kids, I'm mixed up enough.
Your Honor,
All right,
the
yes.
amendment is no sooner than 30 days prior to deconstruction.
Right.
Right.
Okay. All ready for the vote?
It shouldn't say construction, should it? Because it's going to be demolished before it's
I actually said deconstruction.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
All right. Now where are we?
Now we're on the motion
Original?
as amended.
All right, all right. Now we're on the motion as amended. Now, do you want that read, or do you all know what you're voting for? Okay, very good. Steve, stop laughing at me down.
Well, I'm laughing at myself as much as anything, because that's,
This is really Robert's rules tonight.
that's anyway.
Okay, all ready? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
That's all I have, Your Honor, unless there are questions of me.
Thank God, John.
Thank you, John, very much. Are there any questions of the city manager?
I have one question. If the city manager could brief the public as to the August 5th planning board, it's a public session, David's not here.
It's basically will be
changes?
right. There will be an opportunity for the public to voice their input on any zone changes on the proposed master plan. So they would be able to come out on Thursday and discuss that.
That's throughout the whole city. It's not just the overlay.
Right. Throughout the whole city.
Very good.
I'll pass that word, Madam Mayor, that the planning board's listening to everybody, so,
Okay,
very good.
all right, very good. Now you're down to the mayor, hopefully. Are we down to the mayor?
Yes.
Okay. The first one is appointments and resignations, and this one is for consideration for the planning board to go from an alternate to a full-time member, and that's John E. Reese. We'll be voting on that at our next meeting. To be voted on tonight for the Blue Ribbon Committee on Trees and Greenery, Lenore West Bronson. Will somebody make the motion?
John, I so move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? To be voted on, the Cable Television Communication Committee, Jeffrey G. Landry.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Boy, he sent in a sizable resume. Okay, now here's my resignation, which I felt very bad about, and this is from Paige Roberts, and she writes, I am writing to inform you that because I have taken a job in Springfield, Mass., I unfortunately must resign from the Planning Board and the Historic District Commission. So that does open up an alternate on the Planning Board. As far as her part on the HDC, that is voted by the chairperson that, sets the rules and regulations, okay, of the Planning Board. Okay. She enjoyed very much serving on both city boards. What was that?
I'm just wondering what the effective date we should do. It looks like she's planning on attending the August meeting.
Yeah, she said she'd be
Wednesday? Okay.
Yeah. She said she'd be there for the August meeting. I'm not going to read it all, but she says she's very, very, sorry to leave and all of that. And I will send her a very nice letter. I truly will, because she was a real good worker, nice person.
Move to accept with regret effective Thursday of this week.
Of August.
And with our deep appreciation for her service to the city, because she's served in many capacities,
Right.
many committees, and she's just been a tremendous volunteer resource.
Certainly has. Very good. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Now we're down to, and I'll pass the gavel to the city, to the assistant mayor.
The assistant mayor has assumed the chair and recognizes the mayor.
We're down to acceptance of the coalition checks. The town of Easton for $300. The town of Hampton Falls, $2,500. The town of Hebron for $500.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
The next one is the Seacoast MPO. Would somebody like to, what was that? Okay. Their names are right, let me see, John. Their names are right here. Would somebody like to abbreviate that letter in some way?
Madam Mayor, move to reappoint John Burke, Director of Public Transportation, as the city's representative, and Steve Parkinson, Public Works Director, Dave Allen, Deputy Public Works Director, and Dave Holden, Planning Director, as the city's alternates to the commission.
Very good. Did I get a second?
John.
Yes, second. John did? Okay. Oh, you're quiet tonight, John. I didn't hear you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Now, let's see.
Also, Your Honor, under that same issue, there should be a alternate of Dave Holden, a motion made as an alternate.
I did include it as part of it, and David Holden, Planning Director, is the city alternate.
As an alternate? I didn't hear that. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Now we are down to National Night Out, which will be tomorrow night, Tuesday. You have your list of locations. If you'd like to get with me before the meeting is over tonight and tell me what places you will be attending, then it makes it a little bit easier on the mayor and the assistant mayor getting to them all. Harold has already given me his. So if you would like to do that, fine. If not, you're more than welcome to try and get to all of them if you can. And it's a wonderful thing, and it gives you a chance to meet your neighborhood presidents and get to know the people out in those neighborhoods. The next one is...
Madam Mayor, I had a couple of phone calls, and I think I answered it correctly. They asked whether they could do politicking, and I said it was a non-political event.
It is a non-political event, period.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Now we're down to the USS Montpelier, and they've only been with us a short time. The Montpelier is the one that we are hosting, and they're alerting us to the fact there will be a field day competition for the men from the sub at Leary Field on August 6th from 8 a.m. until noon time. And it would be nice if some of you councilors might just go over and give them a cheer, all right? They have been working very hard. They started at Albacore Park, and they've been working on the grounds over there, doing a beautiful job. Also, they've been down to Prescott Park. They've been down to Fort Tree Island. They're going to be down there. In fact, they've been down there to get the shingles off the shelters there. And then also the group will be going to the Salvation Army Soup Kitchen on July 30th. I am going to say that I will get together with Councilor Grasso, where she is a former school teacher, to see if we can't get them involved in the school system, because they keep asking about that. And that went over quite well before when we hosted different submarines. But it's a great group. We plan to have a huge Christmas party for them before they ship out, like we did with the Albuquerque, and show them a good time. Your mayor will be spending some money, but it's well worth it. Let's see. Now we're down to the Piscataqua Maritime Commission, and that is telling you all about the Friendship. It's a tall ship, Friendship, that's coming in, and it is arriving at the Port Authority on Market Street on Friday, August 13th at 5:30 p.m. I'd love to have you all go, but do put in an appearance down there to wish the crew well. All right? I'll be there with a proclamation, and we kind of do it up, Brown, so and there'll be some gifts there. So anyways, that takes care of me. Now we're down to the assistant mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have one item under my name, and that is a result of the city manager's evaluation. This evening, the City Council concluded its annual evaluation of City Manager John Bohenko's job performance over the past year. It reviewed all aspects of his duties as City Manager, including but not limited to general administration, administrative management, program responsibilities, public policy responsibility, relationship, personal skills and traits, and goals. The City Council finds that the City Manager's overall performance continues to be exceptional in all categories. And the evaluation committee consisted of myself as chair, the mayor, and Councilor Joanne Grasso. And I thank them very much for their help, and thank the councilors for completing the comprehensive review forms and getting those back to me in a timely fashion. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Alex.
And that concludes my report.
All right. And I did give John a little pound on the back, because he has definitely, in the 7 years I've worked with that man, he's wonderful. He truly is. All right, we're down to...
Your Honor, there should be a motion to accept this
to
report and
accept
place
the
it on file.
evaluation?
No, I'm reporting the results.
Reporting.
It should be on file.
We posted the results.
You don't put that on file in the part of the minutes?
Personnel file. No,
Personnel
it's
file.
in his personnel file.
Okay.
Is the actual report.
That you gave the report, though. It should be part of the...
Published the report to the public.
Now we're down to any miscellaneous or unfinished business. Any miscellaneous or unfinished? Harold, I knew you'd put up your hand, Harold.
In blocking off the streets on a Friday and Saturday night downtown, I recommend our fellow councilors go down and take a look and see what's happening. It's not all what you read about. There are some problems. There are some people that are upset about it. But take a look. Judge for yourself. I mean, we are losing revenues in 14 meters. They're not being manned or used. It's 11 hours from Friday at 6 o'clock until right straight through until Saturday at 7 o'clock in the evening. So we're losing a lot of hours. We're losing some revenue. And so just take a look on the 13th and 14th of August and the 20th and 21st of August. That'll be the next two Fridays and Saturdays at the Pleasant Street will be blocked off from Florida to Market Square.
Our next council meeting will be August 16th. Yes, Ned.
I'd like to make a remark in response to that, and sort of ask a question as well. I was all in favor of it was the Chamber of Commerce, of course, that brought the proposal to us to do the closures on Pleasant Street Friday night, Saturday night, And I would assume that no one has a better knowledge of what would be good for business down there than the merchants down there. And of course, the idea of that was to improve the pedestrian friendliness, the community feeling, people walking around, talking to each other, patronizing the businesses on that block. So that's my statement. My question is, are we, the city, or is the Chamber of Commerce or the Downtown Business Association engaging in any effort to quantitatively analyze the effect of the closure? In other words, is there any effort being made to measure business receipts during those times and compare them to the same time in another month, perhaps another summer month when the block isn't closed? Because I think it would be really valuable from a policy-making standpoint to have some objective information as to whether closing the block on these weekend nights is, quote, worth it. Does it quantitatively benefit the business environment? We can all go and we can make our judgments subjectively about what we see and what we feel in terms of the environment down there, the number of families and kids and whatnot. I would challenge Councilor Whitehouse's assertion that we're losing revenue from the parking meters. I mean, while it's true that certainly no one's putting money in those meters, we have no way of knowing whether those people who might park there are just going around the block and they're parking in the garage. So we're still getting the revenue. I don't think you can assert that we're just losing that revenue. And furthermore, if more people are coming down to shop at the businesses, there are more business receipts, there are more tax revenues. So it's not as simple as saying, well, no one's putting quarters in those meters. So that's just partly a statement and partly a question, maybe a suggestion that we actually, if we're not doing it now, that we start trying to gather objective information about the benefit or not.
Thank you, Ned.
Thank you.
Assistant Mayor Hanson?
I think the answer to that is like people going to your funeral. It depends on the weather. And I did go down, and it was very well received, and I think people really enjoyed it. I mean, it had a great crowd. They don't spend a lot of money hiring these street performers, but they get tips. And they were very entertaining, and people just loved it. I thought it was great. The downtown was bustling, and I enjoyed it. And Pro Portsmouth was right there, and they probably have, and the downtown merchants were there. So I think they probably have some information, but I think it depends. If it's a rainy day, it doesn't work. If it's sunny out and it's a great evening, it works great. And I happened to be there. It was great weather. And
wouldn't that kind of be up to Pro Portsmouth and the Chamber to do that? Steve?
Actually, what I was going to ask, to some extent, Alice, you just answered it, so withdraw my hand.
Was
Very
that
good.
about the funeral?
Okay. Did clear that up. No, I appreciate that.
That either, because I'm still going to send flowers a donation.
There you go.
Where am I now? Oh,
We're adjourning.
Who wants to make the
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We are done.
One more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just so that I don't have to.
Again this year, I've talked to Grace and Hayes, talked to Everett about right across from you. When you come down that, down Taft,
Pallet man?
yeah, the pallet man, but I can't see out of that corner. I want them to cut some of those shrubs down.
Well, they went
But
in and
the
put a
pallet,
stake.
they're supposed to show.
We're definitely not on, right? There's no such thing as
Yeah.
So consider me in on that one.
But anyway, Jason, we started last year, and then Everett was going to do something, and then one thing, they are so busy.
It's got 4 more years to run.
Yeah. Well, they get to it when they get to it. But I think that's a wise.
We did that in a public session, and Clayton Stevens was over.
Everyone?
Well, actually, John's got a good idea, but you know what? I think security people are going to tell us if we're putting that courtyard behind, the kids can go out for the reading and all that.
Right.
The security thing, it worries me that people can come in through the back.
Well, we're going to have to be sensitive.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what the cameras do it or whatever, but having young kids in the courtyard, you can't have gates or the thing. I'm not sure, but we'll see how the final time. Maybe the courtyard can have something look that way.
Well, I didn't want to say
It was easy this year. It was short. I mean, the report. The reason I mentioned that antenna is that the City Hall is in the HCC district. So, but I don't remember those others up there being. Yeah, could be.